He's looking
Kris.
at me while we're having this conversation because this may or may not have been him this morning over coffee, just for the record. But we would love for your help. Go ahead.
I was just about to make a qualifying statement and say Anthony Poponi, founder of Focus on the 40, is not a marriage and family therapist counselor and cannot provide Kris or Christine consultation on their relationship or their relationship with their children.
And now,
Aye, aye.
I'm the captain now.
coming to you from the K2 studios in San Diego, California.
This sounds great. You sound amazing.
I always sound amazing.
It's the world famous
Everybody's hitting off like BFFs.
Kris and Christine Show.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Thank you so much for listening, and I am Kris.
And I'm Christine, and welcome to episode 151 of the Kris and Christine Show. Do-do-do-do.
Ah, fantastic. We are back into the K2 studios.
And we have our podcasting mascot here, Clover the Habibi Bear, with us.
Hey, Clover, want to say hello? How you doing? Oh, look at you looking at me. How are you doing, girl?
It was so funny because a minute ago she was yawning, and I thought that and she was like standing up and yawning right near my microphone, and I thought, oh, Clover's going to chime in today.
Well, you got something to say, Clover? She missed us so much today because both of us were gone all day today.
Well, I was gone all day today. You were just gone for a few hours, weren't you?
A little longer than a few hours, actually. I was gone for like probably 5 hours, maybe.
Oh, well, what happened to you today?
Okay, well, today as we record this, it is Monday. Now, I take Mason to school. I take both kids to school, but today I just had Mason. So I took Mason to school, dropped him off, come home, shower, dress, all that great, fantastic stuff. So
Because you take him to school in your pajamas, no clothes.
Nothing wrong with that. You know, when he was younger, I actually had to take him into school, like walk him into like the class and all that. And now I don't have to. Now I just drop him off at the front door in my truck. So I don't have to get out of the vehicle at all. In fact, they don't let anybody like walk him in anymore. Now it's like, because security and all that stuff and COVID reasons or whatever. So now the kids have to be dropped off. A teacher or a staff member actually takes them and walks them into the class or lets them to the gate or whatever. Anyway, so I let them drop them off and I just wear my pajamas when I do that. Very easy to do, very convenient. Since we live so close to the school, it's like super easy. Anyways, after I was done with that and got ready, I said, what am I going to do today? I know. I love going to Costco because Costco's got great like pre-made dinners. We talk about this all the time. And I'm like, great, I'll go over there, get a Costco dinner for tonight. I'll get a few things. Maybe I'll get a bite of pizza. I love pizza. A slice of pizza while I'm over there. So I get this pizza slice. I eat all that, get everything at Costco. I get in my truck, get some gas. I head on home, and I'm like cruising on home, like rocking out some music. I'm jamming. I'm good. It's good vibes today, right? I got the house to myself. I got me a little Clover all day today, just hanging out. And I'm like, great. This is awesome. The second I turn the corner to pull onto our street where we go up this little hill to where our house is at, my truck starts dinging all kinds of warning lights.
No, and not all kinds. It was probably one.
It was one, and it said...
And this is what I deal with, the over-exaggeration.
It said you have a low tire pressure in one of your tires. Like all four tires, well, the car's got four tires, obviously, but one of the four is a lot lower than the other three. The other three are the same, like air temperature, air pressure gauge. But the fourth one was dropping quite a bit. I was like, that's weird. So I noticed that all of the tire gauges for the tire pressure, because my truck's got a monitoring system on it. So it tells you what tire has what kind of air pressure in it live in real time, which is kind of a nice feature. Most new modern cars have that anyways. So I noticed that one of the four was a lot lower than the other three. And I was like, that's weird. So
what'd you do to it?
So I parked the truck. Now I had dinner tonight in the truck, put in the refrigerator to cook later. It was chicken Alfredo, but that's beside the point. Anyways, so I parked the truck in the driveway, and I'm looking on the tire that they say is wrong. I'm looking at it, I'm like, doesn't seem too bad. It doesn't seem like it's low or anything. And then I look on the top of the tire, and I happen to see a big shiny like silver object, like almost like a dime or something. Poke it. I'm like, that's weird.
Like that big? Like the top of a dime?
Yeah, well, it was the top of a bolt.
Oh.
An actual bolt was sticking into the tire tread. Now I've got big, thick, like off-road tires. I figured they probably wouldn't puncture through something like that. Thick, whatever. It just so happened it went through the tread and it went into the middle of the tire. It was sticking in there. And I hear this hissing sound, coming right out of the tire. I'm like, oh, that's not good, because eventually it's going to be flat.
Right.
just a matter of time before the thing runs out of air and it's totally flat. I'm totally screwed, and don't ask me how to change a tire. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure I can figure it out, but
Don't ask you how to do anything. Hammer a nail, you tape down, extension cords. Don't ask Kris. Install Christmas lights. That's a whole nother story.
So what I did,
go on.
So I know that I've gotten tires at Discount Tire before. And Discount Tire, I do know about Discount Tires. They do give you free, fix your tire for free. If you have a nail in your tire, as long as it's not in the sidewall, but as long as it's in the center tread, the down part of your tire, the tire touches the ground. If it's in there, they can pull it out, plug it, patch it, whatever, and do that stuff. I said, great. I knew they'd be able to do it. So before the truck runs out of air in the tire, I race down the hill.
Oh, wait. Pause in the story.
What's there to pause about?
Because it didn't happen right then, because in between you realizing that your tire was losing air pressure and actually driving it down to Discount Tire, I started to get my phone blown up with text messages that you're basically you're going to die because your tire is going to go completely flat or something. I don't know. You were texting me all kinds of stuff.
I'm no expert. I just know I hear it hissing, and I know I see the bolt in there, and I hear the air coming out of it, and I know that the tire gauge is already dropping. It actually, by the time I got down to Discount Tire, I probably lost another pound of pressure in the tire. But I get down there, and they are like,
there's a whole pound of pressure.
I know, craziness. So I get down there, and I'm like, first off, I get in there, and they're super busy, and I couldn't find a place to park anywhere. So I it's
because everybody's going for free stuff.
I don't know what they're going. Maybe new tire, who knows what. So I pull into the line to get your tire checked. They have a check line to go get free air pressure done on your tires. It's great service, by the way. If you have tires that you think are low, you might need to add air pressure to your tires. They will do it for you for free, and they have the whole system. It's very easy, very convenient. You don't have to get your car. It's great. So I get in that line, and the guy's like, "Here to get fresh get tire checked, air pressure checked." And I'm like, "No, actually, I need a new tire fixed, but there's a place to park at." So they go, "Bring it over here. We'll take a look at it." And they took a look at it, and they said, "We can get you fixed, but we're really busy today." I said, "Well, listen, dude, I need the thing fixed because if I bring it tomorrow, it's gonna be flat, and then I'm really gonna be screwed anyways.
Right.
So it has to be done today."
Yeah.
And
so what did he say to that?
He said, "Well, it's going to be almost a 3-hour wait."
What?
I know.
3 hours for what?
To fix the tire of my truck.
What? Was there one person working there?
I don't know, but they were really, really busy. So what I ended up...
I guess because it's right after a holiday, I would imagine that people, as they're on the road and stuff, maybe a lot of people got tires damaged and things like that.
That, or they need to buy new tires. I have no idea, So I was there. I was like, great. So I hung out talking to you, getting a few text messages to figure out what am I going to do for 3 hours here sitting at the Discount Tire place. And then he said, "Doesn't your sister live around the corner?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh yeah, she's home right now." I'm like, "Oh, she is? Okay, let me give her a call and see if she's home and we can go over and hang out." So I called my sister up and I said, "Hey, can I hang out with you for a few hours while I fix my truck?" Because you said it'd be 3 hours to fix my truck. "Okay, yeah, come on over." So I walked all the way over to her house.
How far was it?
It's probably only maybe a mile.
It was not a mile. It was 2 blocks.
Yeah, it's a mile.
No, it's not.
Well, for forever, right?
Oh, my word.
Man, I was like, gosh, she lives further than I thought she did. Things seem so close when you're in the car. Everything seems real close together. But when you actually got to walk it, you're like, gosh, it's super far to walk 2 blocks or whatever it is. I'm sure people in New York do it all the time or whatever. But anyways, I walked all the way over there, saw Braden, kind of hung out. We talked about all kinds of stuff. I was telling her about camping and how we went to Zion. And I was showing her pictures about the glamping because she says she'd rather go camping than do a hotel stay for traveling. I said, great. You guys do glamping. We did glamping. It was great. And I was telling her all about that. And she thought it was a joke. I said, no, really, they have a bed.
Wait, she would rather go camping than stay at a hotel?
Oh, yeah. She's saying she'd rather just do that because, hotels are expensive and traveling is expensive. She'd rather either go to camp because she thinks camping is fun and camping sounds fun.
Okay.
And I just said, well, actually, glamping is probably even better because you get a bed and a whole wardrobe set in the tent.
Yeah.
So I said, you should try that route, and I showed her pictures and she thought it was a big joke. But I think we should do that again, glamping. It was so much fun.
It was really fun, except you were miserable on the way over there. But then again, when are we traveling and you're not miserable? So
I get the nervous jitters when I travel.
I guess so. So long story short, did you get your truck fixed?
I finally did. They finally fixed it 3 hours later, and they didn't charge me a single thing. That's why I like going there.
Except your time. which is most valuable of all.
Yes, half my day got taken away.
So then 5 hours after, going to Costco and everything, you finally made it home. At which point I had just finished my work day and I texted you or actually I called you and I said, well, hey, since you're home now and we don't have to pick up the kiddo until, 5:30, I'm going to come on home. I'm going to grab a little snack on my way and then we can podcast. And guess what I got for my snack today?
What'd you get, babe?
Well, I've really been wanting to try this because, it's a holiday season. December 1st is right around the corner. And I had heard that there was this new limited time thing at Wendy's. And I'm all about peppermint during the winter time.
Ooh, yeah.
And Wendy's has a peppermint frosty.
No way.
I had it. It was so good today.
Do they actually put like chunks of like peppermint candy cane in there?
No. It's just like smooth. And that's why I liked it because then you don't have to like crunch down on anything. It was like a peppermint milkshake without the chunks. I love a good peppermint milkshake.
Well,
I love
shout
peppermint.
out to Wendy's. Huh?
Yeah, I love peppermint ice cream. So I've had so far this season, even before Thanksgiving, we got some peppermint ice cream last week. We got Chick-fil-A peppermint milkshakes on Saturday. And then I got myself a peppermint frosty. I'm just going to turn it into a candy cane.
You're getting all excited already for December, which is around the corner. Any minute now, we should hit in December.
Yeah.
And that's when you get in December, that's when I turn the Christmas up a notch. I mean, you already got Christmased out here at the house. But I want to tell everybody what you did over the weekend with the decorations.
Well, first of all, we'll start with Thanksgiving because Thanksgiving was really great. I mean, except for the fact that you weren't able to be here for Thanksgiving dinner and the kids weren't here. But your mom was really sweet. She had invited me several weeks ago, said that she was cooking for her and your dad and your sister and her family, and asked if I wanted to join them. And I was thinking, well, your parents' house is just a little bit smaller and it might be hard for your mom to fit everybody plus cook. And I said, well, why don't you just come and use our kitchen and we can have everybody sit over here. Like, we don't mind hosting them. And she didn't want to put me out. And then she thought about it and she texted me back a few days later. And she was like, okay, I would love to use your kitchen. But the rule is that I don't want you to do any cooking. I want you to just rest and relax. And I was like, well, chances of that are slim and none. Like the fact that I would just sit around and let somebody else cook for me on Thanksgiving. However, your mom she really was adamant about wanting to do it all. And so during the day, I just helped her with I put a couple of pies in the oven, but she really did everything. She did such a great job. I just set the table for her and showed her where stuff was. But after you went to work and, I'd worked all week and then it was like, I worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then it's like, okay, now here's the holiday. And you arrived to this holiday exhausted because you really didn't have downtime before the holiday, right?
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I was just like, okay, I'm so tired today. And I didn't say that, but I think she just noticed. And she was like, you look tired. You should just go take a nap. Why don't you go on upstairs and take a nap? And I was like, okay. And so I went upstairs and I turned on a Hallmark movie and she finished cooking and I was upstairs resting. And then by the time I came down, it was time for Thanksgiving dinner and it was amazing.
That's like kids with Christmas morning.
I know, right?
They sleep, wake up, and it's all ready for them.
I know, it was
and
so
the parents
great.
are exhausted, like, oh, I'm tired.
I know. Your mom worked so hard. She did such a great job. The food was so good. And I was just so appreciative of having her here. And it just really makes me so thankful yet again that I have family down here now because it was really hard the first couple of years. I had to always travel up for the holidays.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Yeah, totally.
And I was away from my home. And, I still love being with my family on the holidays. But it just feels different to be able to celebrate the holidays in your own home. And I just love your family.
That's like the best part about having a home. When you first buy your very first home, like you're a new homeowner, you want to have all the holidays there. I mean, I did with my condo. I think when I first bought my condo, I had Thanksgiving at my little condo. My family came over. It was just my dad, mom, and my sister. We did the whole Thanksgiving there. And then I think the first time renting the house, we had Thanksgiving there. And definitely at the new house, at the other house, definitely did Thanksgiving there. And then here too, it's a thing. For me, it's always been a thing when I buy a new place or move in somewhere new. It's like, let's do Thanksgiving.
I know, but it's different not having to cook. And I mean, as a guy, maybe you didn't have to ever do Thanksgiving cooking. Maybe you just opened your house and let the ladies do everything.
Well, I open the house and let the ladies come on in, That's how I roll.
But it was really nice. And then before Thanksgiving, though, we had Ezekiel down here for the prior week, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And he came down and we had all 3 kids here, and they were wild, and it was fun.
Oh my goodness. The energy, these 3 kids, they thrive off each other.
Yeah,
you know?
I know. It's hilarious. But we have a family tradition of letting the boys decorate the Christmas tree. And so that was going to be the only time they were all 3 together before Christmas time. And so I talked with you and I said, let me bring out the Christmas tree early and we'll let the kids. I think I prefaced it and I was like, hey, I think that the kids are going to want to decorate the Christmas tree this week. And this was before Zeke got here. And then Zeke arrived. And like that night, he's like, Mom, can we decorate the Christmas tree this week? I was like, yep, see, Kris, I told you already that was going to happen. And so I pulled out all the ornaments, all the Christmas tree and all of that kind of stuff. And they did that on Sunday and it was so fun.
Oh, they love that. I actually got out of your guys' way because I knew that you and the kids, especially the kids, would want to do the whole Christmas decorating
But
thing.
we wanted you here. You kept like being grumpy and making yourself scarce. And we were just wanting you to be here with us. And the boys were even like, where did Dad go? Zeke was like, where did Kris go? Because they really wanted you to be around with us, but you were grumpy. And so I just sat there.
Wait, I was grumpy? I'm never grumpy. I'm not grumpy.
Mm-hmm. Sure. We're going to just go with that. And so the boys decorated the tree and, they had a good time. And then, we just spent quality time together and we did some fun stuff together as a family. But then fast forward, there was Thanksgiving. And then over this weekend, I finished decorating the inside of the house. And Mason, my little buddy for the weekend, helped me get all the Christmas lights up outside. And they look amazing.
Little buddy elf
Chef's
Mason.
Kiss. Mwah.
Chef's kiss. Huh?
Chef's kiss. Mwah. They look so amazing.
I thought a chef's kiss when you add salt to the dish.
No, chef's kiss is like, mwah, like it's perfect.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so we got all the Christmas lights outside. I am ready for the holidays. And I don't know, I just get like a special little extra bit of happiness during this time of year.
Hey, how are those Hallmark Christmas movies? You guys getting into those? Are you getting into any of those?
Yes, of course. It was the holiday weekend, so we kick off countdown to Christmas, and so all of the new 2022 Hallmark movies are coming out.
They got new ones?
They do every year, dear. There's like 5 or 6 new ones at least.
Any new characters or the same actors?
There's a couple of new characters, but some of them are the same actors and actresses. But what I will say, the first 2 that I watched were way corny. Like there's Hallmark corny, and then these were just like unbelievable corny.
You saw the writing on the wall, like how you kind of figured out how it's going to play out.
Yeah, it was just like the acting was way, way dramatic. Like
really, so I'd be a perfect star for those, probably.
Yeah. So there was this one, and it was cute-ish. But it was The Royal Nanny. This is the new one that they've been.
Oh, is that the spy one?
Yeah. So this was the one that they've been like promoting on the Hallmark Channel, like The Royal Nanny, new 2022 movie. But it was so dramatic. It was like, okay, this is way overdone. Like when people are like, oh my word, I can't believe that you were in on that. And it was like, ugh, okay. But then there was this other one, Jolly Good Christmas. And that one, I liked that one, but definitely the male lead was kind of overplaying it just a little bit. And it was just like, you could tell it was a different production company than the typical one. I have not seen Candace Cameron Bure in any new Hallmark Channel movies. So I don't know if she left, but typically she's in like 6. So maybe they just haven't come out yet.
You haven't heard the news?
Well, what was the news?
About her leaving the whole thing to do her own production for some
I didn't
company.
know that she actually left Hallmark Channel.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Oh, yeah. She's anti Hallmark Channel now.
Oh, I don't know how I feel about that. I'm going to have to look that up. But Lacey Chabert, I love her. She used to be in the show Party of 5.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, way back in the day. But she has come out in a couple of movies already. I'm like almost all the way through another one that I'm going to finish tonight. But this is my season of the year where I just like veg out because the fall wedding season is officially this Saturday marks the close of it.
No way. Fantastic.
Yep. And then we're on a break until April.
We're on a break. A wedding break.
Yeah.
A wedding break.
But, this is a time of year where I just love to kind of enjoy the season. I find that I am my happiest during wintertime and Christmas, but I find that you are like Scrooge amplified.
Excuse me, like I'm Scrooge year round.
This is very true.
I don't exclude it just of Christmas, but I do try to get moments of happiness. I think being here creating this podcast with you brings me so much joy. It is my happy place in life.
Is it?
Oh,
Aww.
Definitely, for sure, 100%.
You're so sweet. Well, so imagine if the world had no podcasting. What would you do?
Radio, probably. this kind of thing right now, but would be like over a radio set and be tune us in,
Yeah. Well, talking about radio, talking about happiness, we have a great guest that's coming up this week who talks with us about happiness and success in life, and we're going to be back with him right after this. Are you in the middle of wedding planning and feeling overwhelmed? There's no need to fret, my friend. Christine Smith Designs is here to rescue you. Offering wedding planning, coordination, and wedding floral design services, let us help relieve your stress and make your wedding day dreams a reality. Visit us at KristineSmithDesigns.com. That's KRISTINE SmithDesigns.com and request a free consultation. You'll be so glad you did. And welcome back, everybody. Today we have another fantastic VIP guest. He is an author, speaker, and I would like to refer to him as the happiness guru. Welcome to the show, Anthony Poponi.
Oh, that audience is all fired up after the holidays. That's great.
They definitely are not rolling around with turkey in their tummies still. They sound very energetic.
Hey, Anthony. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, YouTube.
Well, where in the world are you joining us from today?
Lovely Bend, Oregon.
Oh, you're just to the north.
So you're just like, you're on the same time zone at least. Check that out.
Yeah.
Make scheduling so much easier.
Just around the bend from us.
Do you have a laugh track in there that you can use for those dad jokes?
I do. I didn't load it into the system, but I have plenty of sound effects. Oh my goodness, because the kids like to play podcasting too, and I load this whole thing up with all kinds of sound effects for them, and they go nuts. It's like when you go to the elevator and everybody like pushes all the buttons. I think Buddy the Elf did it in that Elf movie. He pushed all the buttons. That's kind of like what the kids do with their sound effects on here. So.
I love that movie, by the way.
Crazy. It's a fantastic movie.
Yeah, since it's day after Thanksgiving, I might just have to break into watching Elf tonight. I was putting out Christmas lights a little bit earlier. Can't believe that we're already through the Thanksgiving holiday. How was your holiday?
It was really great. I'm actually my girlfriend was out of town. We're meeting in San Diego on Monday. And so I'm going to actually be in your neighborhood, I think. And I spent my Friendsgiving with some friends, some close friends, some people that I knew pretty well. And then another person I didn't know very well. And it was like beautiful and intimate and fun and laughter. And it was fantastic. Thanks for asking.
That's amazing. So where are you going to go when you're here in San Diego?
Oh, TBD. My girlfriend is the sort of planner. Her name is Kara that if I say, hey, let's go to San Diego for the winter and try to like knock off some of the shoulder season. And then 4 days later, she has all the camping sites booked and 5 different itineraries. So she'll be telling me what we're doing while we're down there.
Are you guys big campers, like outdoor people?
Yeah, very big. She has a travel trailer. I have an RV and we spend a lot of time outside.
Are you driving down?
Well, it's a long story, but she's driving in from a cool tour of the national parks down in the Southwest. And then I'm flying actually to Phoenix, meeting her. She's picking me up in Phoenix at the airport, and then we're driving to San Diego, and then I'll be down there for a while and then bouncing out briefly for some work and then coming back. So trying to spend, a few weeks down there over the course of December.
Well, you picked the perfect time of year to come because right now it's like sunny and 70 degrees. And I was outside putting up the Christmas lights in shorts and a tank top and sweating my head off because it was nice and gorgeous. But camping this time of year is always really gorgeous, which is really interesting because most people would think that like November, December to go camping.
October, I think, is the camping time.
Yeah, but it's pretty hot still in October.
Well, yeah, but at least you don't have like I know the nights aren't as cold when you get middle of October. I know it's still. I think of October, I mean, people think of it as fall, but I think here, October can still be considered summer.
Right.
Somewhat.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just down in Florida and Arizona in the last month, and it was just like sweltering in Florida as always. And then even Arizona, I was like, wasn't ready for 93 degrees in October.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't think we're getting that in San Diego, and that's absolutely fine by me.
Yeah, definitely not. But you have picked a great time. So you're going to be here for a couple of weeks, and she's the planner. But do you have any things that you're looking forward to checking out, or are you just pretty much a go with the flow kind of guy?
Oh no, I mean I love being outside, so I'll be bringing down a mountain bike. Well, I'm coming back down with a vehicle, so I'll be bringing a mountain bike. I do like to play disc golf. I like to surf, so I'll be outside kicking around. And then I've only been to San Diego one other time, and so I'm going to eat as many fish tacos as I can shove in my face.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And then I like to be in places for longer periods of time just to try to get more of a feel for like the rhythm of those places and like what these little districts look like. And I only really know Mission Beach. So it'd be fun to just kind of play.
Yeah, we like going to Mission Beach too because they have the Belmont Park theme park there, and they got the roller coaster, and they got the restaurants and the shops and the beaches there, of course. And the kids love it, that kind of stuff.
Right, but there's so many other places too. Sorry, go ahead.
I meant to say Pacific Beach. That's where we stayed. So little surf town there.
Oh yeah,
just north of Mission Beach, up the boardwalk and stuff.
Is it up there? Okay, yeah,
yeah. Cool. But PB is pretty fun. You'll get the hang of all of the different places, especially if you're staying for a few weeks and camping around. And there's some great trails, so you'll really enjoy the mountain biking because I mean, a lot of people think of San Diego as just like a beach city. Mm-hmm. But I was driving from where we live in East County up to North County this morning, but I was driving through what's called Claremont Mesa area and looking at all of the different hills around. And I was thinking, man, like where else in the world can you get these beautiful beach towns? And then in the middle, foothills. We live right at the foothills, but we're just 20 minutes from downtown. And there's hiking trails right across the old highway from where we live. And you're going to have such a blast. And so, Kris, what are your best places to recommend for fish tacos?
Well, everybody's go-to, the quick and easy place to go to is probably Rubio's. They are home of the world-famous fish taco. Of course, it says it on the door as you walk in. And
but that's more fast food.
It is fast food. That is
like a chain.
It is a great chain.
You have to be cautious about any place that tells you they're the world best. I mean, go back to the movie Elf, where he walked into the place that had the world's best coffee, and he took back. I don't remember, Zoe Deschanel. Is that her name? I don't know how you say it. But she brought her back. And he was just looking at her expectantly while she's sipping on this coffee from a greasy spoon diner. So maybe I'm not going to Rubio's. I don't know. I'm going to look at reviews.
I mean, I've always loved Rubio's. I mean, I loved them more when the fish tacos were only $1, but now they're like $3 a taco or whatever. I used to crush those. Well, you definitely, I think too. And I mean, for the most part, I think they're all pretty good. But I think the thing about Rubio's, not that they're a sponsor or anything like that, is that they really they really take pride. Like, if you're going to go to Rubio's and get one thing, it'd probably be the fish taco. Yeah, it's probably like their staple. Like everybody has like their staple thing they sell. Like that would probably be it for them.
But I think if you were going to get something like a California burrito, which is really good, then you could go to a place like Lucha Libre, which Kris loves.
Oh, the Surf in California you got to get.
Oh, Surf in California, yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. It's basically like carne asada, shrimp, fries, and they have some kind of special sauce they make, and it's not cheap, by the way, because it's considered like gourmet Mexican. It's like Mexican and it's like gourmet Mexican. It's like next level Mexican.
Yeah.
So they charge a premium.
Yeah, and this premium for a street taco, and you're like, wait, how did I just spend $25 on 3 tacos? Like, what happened to
Yeah.
Oh, definitely, for sure.
The place that you're going to end up spending that kind of money is called Puesto, and that's like,
oh yeah,
they have really good tacos, but they are gourmet tacos, so you're going to pay a pretty penny. But they're delicious.
Like $12 per taco.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Oh no, I'm not kidding you. I think was there one that was like $20 a taco?
No, they're like 8 to 10. But yeah, they're really good.
Per
they're gourmet.
Per taco.
So savor them.
They definitely are. Yeah, go on a Tuesday because they definitely cut the prices down for Taco Tuesday. So I'm excited.
Really cool.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm getting hungry now.
Yeah. Super
Do you want
excited
to take a short commercial break and eat some lunch?
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what adventures, and who knows, maybe we'll end up meeting up somewhere and Kris will take you for some fish tacos.
I'll let you guys buy at the really fancy place.
Sounds good. Well, so hearing about your travels, does your work take you to a lot of different places? Oh
yeah, all over the place, all over the U.S. Traveling all over the country. I do a lot of speaking at conferences of all sorts. And, the thing that I think is really, really great about the work is the work itself. And then, of course, when I have the freedom and the time to control my schedule, then I can make nice trips out of it and do fun things. And I did that when I was in Arizona. I did that when I was in Florida. I've done that when I've been in Colorado, just recent visits. So yeah, it can be a lot of travel. I think I ease the pain of the travel when I can do bucket filling things for me.
That sounds great. And so when you are going out, you mentioned speaking. What is it that you actually do for a living?
Well, I make people laugh using a series of dad jokes and self-deprecating humor.
Okay, give us your best dad joke right now. Come on.
I think my best dad joke is just saying, like, I don't know how this happened, but I don't have kids, but I still somehow have a dad bod. And that's one that's a crowd favorite. But I speak at conferences on human happiness, and that's a big part of the work. And then, that transitions into speaking to people about the elements of happiness that I would call non-pleasurable. We think about happiness as like hedonism, all the fun stuff, cheeseburgers and cocktails and vacations. And what we know from the study of human happiness is that there's deeper stuff. There's eudaimonia, purpose-driven sort of happiness that's hard. And for people to craft this really fulfilling life, they have to create, like they have to actively craft. That's a verb, right? They have to craft their own life, and they can't ignore the hard stuff. Like doing the hard stuff is important.
And so have you always been a happy person, or was there some pivotal point in your life that helped you to really embrace happiness and joy?
Oh, I've always been a happy person. I think some people, research says that we have sort of a set range of where our happiness is. And all of the different metrics, I come out as extroverted, and extroverted people are generally happier than people that are more introverted. I'm optimistic. I have a lot of gratitude. I'm kind to other people. I have a good connection with spirituality, even though it's not really religious, about this like sense of purpose and belonging, a sense of service. And so I think those things have just like, I don't know that it was by default. I think I've crafted being a happier person through those things. And then where I've recognized where I'm struggling, then I work on it. That's the significance of the work I do, is that, we have available to us the opportunity to take action about crafting these happy lives.
That's really interesting that you say that, because as you were talking, I was wondering about, I work in an industry where there's people with all different types of personalities. And I find that there are some people that are just generally unhappy in their life. Like nothing that you say is going to, you could give them the lottery, like they could win the $2 billion Powerball, and they're going to find negativity in it.
Sure.
What do you think is the root of that? And how would you go about supporting somebody and getting out of that funk?
Well, you said a few things there, so we'll pick them apart one by one. First of all, some people have a lower happiness set range or set point, and part of that is the name of my company is called Focus on the 40. And the quick version of this is that 50% of kind of how happy we are is genetic. So if you have really miserable parents, or if you have really depressed parents, or parents with high anxiety, like you carry that with you. You have the potential to through genetics. Only about 10% of life circumstance, how old you are, where you live, what your religion is, what your marital status is, what your sex is, what your orientation is, what country you live in, education, wealth, all of those combined. And I'm going through this fast. I'm going to pause just to say all of those things combined, all of those life circumstances only account for about 10% of the variability for how happy people are.
Really?
Yeah. And then the other 40%, again, my business, Focus on the 40, is to focus on the 40% of what they call volitional action, the actions you can take to create more sustainable and durable happiness in your life. So that's part of it. And just, I'm going to just keep going just to cover this lottery piece that you brought up, is that they've done really cool studies on people that have won the lottery. And it is a life circumstance, right? You have just changed your financial circumstance. And within 2 years, or even less in a lot of cases, they come back to the same exact happiness set point they were before they hit the lottery.
Really?
That's really interesting. So when you say that, this 50, 10, 40 dimension, it sounds like people that are born into circumstances or have the genetics that predispose them for more negativity just have the odds stacked against them. Is there any hope for them to be able to change that, or do they live a life of misery?
Oh, no, they don't have to live a life of misery at all. No, it's just a starting point, and so, for most people, if you look at the happiest countries in the world on a scale of 0 to 10, the happiest countries, typically Nordic countries, will scale, they'll wind up at like a score of 7.4 or 7.6, right? So think about that, right? And think about where your own life would be. So we're not talking about trying to get to 10, but if you start off as a -2, and psychology, like regular psychology, can get you to a 0 and then can get you to a 2, then you can keep shifting those numbers up, up, up. And most of us, in the United States, 20% or so of people suffer from depressive symptoms or high anxiety symptoms. That means that 80% of us, are probably starting life out at a 5 or a 6, and that goes up and down over time based on good and bad events, and that we can just continually chunk and increment in increments, move up how happy we are.
That's really interesting. So is this something, is it like a quiz like you'd find in like 17 magazine to be able to find out what your happiness score
like your
is?
happiness score, like if you rank between I don't know, a 9 and a 10, you're like above the world. You're extremely happy. 1 or 2,
Or your emoji is sunshine emoticon.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a 9 or a 10, I mean, to be very candid, if you're a 9 or a 10, it's probably not true. That most people, really fit into that 7, 8. And we're supposed to feel moments of 10. Like joy and elation are real things, but they are emotions, and emotions are, kind of driven by neurochemistry. And those neurochemicals go away. They're, our feelings are a response to a perception of something in our lives that we're doing being good for our survival or bad for our survival. And when we're doing something perceived as bad for our survival, our brain makes us feel bad. Our brain wants us to change that situation. When we're doing something good for our survival, our brain wants to make us feel good to reinforce those behaviors.
Well, Anthony, what do you think about like people who I hate to bring this up, but like do drugs or narcotics to kind of put themselves back up at that 10 feeling? You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Oh yeah. I mean, it's one of the things I say on stage all the time of like, you're not really meant to feel plus 10 all the time, right? That's Buddy the Elf, and either you can drink syrup all the time and you're going to get diabetes, or you can aid getting to positive 10 by the use of illicit drugs, which is not my suggestion as a happiness expert.
Right.
But I think that's what we're chasing, and even think about it because it feels good, right? And so the idea is to recognize that those positive 10 moments are going to go away, and then recognizing the patterns of the positives and even the negatives, and then shaping your life and to say, oh, I want more positive 10 moments. So when do I feel those, and how do I like structure my life around them?
That makes a lot of sense. And so when you find individuals that are, because you mentioned like going out and speaking, it sounds like it's more like occupational where you're working with companies and things like that. When you find an environment where there's a number of employees that are just dissatisfied with their life and their job, and they don't find fulfillment in it, how do you help them without getting them all to quit? Because it would sound like that would get you, like people wouldn't be calling you back to be their speaker.
I don't know. If I go into a workplace and the workplace is unhappy overall, and there's 5 people that are the cause of that out of 100, maybe getting rid of those 5 people is addition by subtraction. And so I think that I call it, there's a lot of employees out there that are these incredible assets, and they're an incredible pain at the same time, right? They have like low social IQ, and they're not worried about friction. I call them a pain in the asset, like
there you go.
It's a combination of like, oh, there's so much good in this person. If we can tweak them around to be like more socially aware, it would change their impact on the rest of the workplace. So I think it's a real thing of having those negative situations. And, you asked a tough question, like, what would you go do without getting everybody to quit? Well, it's highly individualistic. You have to go in and really get a feel for what's going on in a workplace to really help them sort that out.
Well, what if the company, not saying anybody, not throwing anybody to the bus, but just say, what if the company itself has, you said 5 employees? Let's say 95 of the 100 employees are miserable. What do you do in that situation?
Well, there's something systemic going on there, and in that point, and the Surgeon General from the United States just released this really cool. It's a framework for well-being, right? And if you have 95 people out of 100 that are miserable, there's something really terrible going on there, right? People don't feel psychologically safe. They don't feel physically safe. They're not treated with dignity and respect. That's a huge problem. That's a full-on dumpster fire of a workplace. And what's really a shame in a lot of the work that I do is that the places that are truly like the awful workplace cultures, like you've kind of laid out, aren't the ones that ask for my help.
Yeah.
Right? The ones that ask for my help are the ones that are like, I have a really good team and I want to keep my team. And I know that there's more available from this team and I want to get the most out of them without like squeezing it out of them literally, but like getting them to lean in and engage more and be more productive and have really good, like positive conflicts,
Are those the same kind of companies that actually ask their employees for honest reviews and thoughts and tips versus the ones that probably don't? They don't care?
Yeah. I mean, if you don't want bad news, you're not going to ask for it.
Right.
If you know your teams aren't doing well, then you're not going to do that. But if you're a leader that really cares about the whole person in front of you, you're going to lean into like trying to understand that and honor as a leader that you're fallible, and that
Right.
that this is a process. It's not like culture is not a static thing either.
So as you've been chatting about the different workplace environments, it really made me think about, I don't know why it was that it triggered this when you were talking about the ones that are probably the most toxic or not asking for your help. It really seems like occupationally, it's similar to relationships. When there's that abusive relationship, the one that's inflicting the most harm typically isn't the one that's going to be reaching out for help and or acknowledging that there is a problem. And yet those are the ones that need the most help and are probably hemorrhaging the most employees. And so how do you go about selecting which companies you choose to work with when they reach out to court you for your services?
Yeah, I try to have really candid conversations with them. And, a lot of cases what people come forward asking for is not necessarily what they really need. And that sounds a little bit pompous for me to assume that. And that's okay. And a lot of the times when I work with clients, the way that I really like to work with them is over the course of a whole year. So if, say it's a workplace of 50 people, I like to meet with the executive team and have like a full day retreat where we can start off with fun stuff and we can go deep, right? And you build trust with them, build rapport with them. And then you come back and you do like a touch-up session in a couple of months, and then you do individual coaching in between. And, so I think what you're giving yourself space to do in there is saying, hey, we're going to like expose you to a bunch of things and how things can be versus how things are. Because just like with a lot of things, like we can inherit how we think we're supposed to behave as human beings from our family and our community and just like our workplace, right? So we've seen leadership that is the Darth Vader of leadership. And if that's all you ever know is leadership, then when you get elevated to a leadership position, then that's how you're going to lead.
Right.
Unless you spend time to improve. Same thing with relationships. If you come from a household where your parents are screaming at each other all day long, like George Costanza's parents from Seinfeld, you could model that thinking that, well, this is how loving relationships work, and that's insane to us from the outside. But a lot of people just don't know. And so I think you have to put a lot of time.
They just fall into what they know, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, a lot of that is just like, all right, what are my tendencies? Are these good tendencies or bad tendencies? And there's a mix of both for sure.
So when you're engaged with a company, do you just go in and provide some type of keynote speech and leave, or do you have long-term consultation services that you offer?
It's the preference is long-term. And I'm laughing because could you imagine me walking in and being like, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about happiness in 45 minutes, and then I'm disappearing completely and you take it on from here.
Well, it's because, sometimes these companies do search for the magic bullet. It's like, we're going to bring in this guy and we're going to pay him this money to come and speak to you, and we're going to wave a wand and it's going to make you happy. Almost as if you're the Tinkerbell of like occupational keynote speaking.
If that's the engagement they want me for, I'm going to bring in magic pills and be like, here, take one of these at the end of my presentation and it's going to fix all your cultural problems.
And how much are those, by the way?
I don't think I legally can sell those. Yeah. And that's that's the hard part, right? Is that like, the cultural pieces, like think about the culture of a group, right? It requires really good trust within people. It requires leaning into having difficult conversations. It means developing yourself as a leader. It means developing your own mastery and growth. And a lot of those things just don't feel good, so we can back away from them. And we have to lean into those because I think there's real beauty in developing yourself as a human being and then becoming a leader that can create leaders out of other people, That's not easy. It doesn't happen overnight. And it honors that when you're doing these things, you're going to try and you're going to make mistakes. And if you can have like a really good trusting culture, you can make those mistakes and then continue to build.
But if you don't have the trusting culture, then some of this stuff will fall flat, correct?
No. Oh, yeah. Punitive environment, where people are looking for weaknesses in other people, which, by the way, very natural thing for human beings. We're worried about our status. We're worried about elevating ourselves because that's a way for our ancestors to have survived. And so if by worrying about elevating our own status, we can harm other people.
That's horrible, harming other people to elevate your own status. I mean, I know people do it all the time, but
sure.
I mean, people people backstab each other just to get that promotion or to get to whatever.
Yep.
Throw people under the bus. Like, I didn't do it. It was him or something, or blame. If there's like a team project and then the person will just blame Susie or whoever. Well, she didn't do her part, so that's why the whole thing failed.
Yeah. And that's not, and we're wired for negativity, right? And so that, we have to be very cautious about the fact that we can find people to commiserate with. And there's bonding and commiseration. I think it's the wrong type of bonding. And we have to kind of like slowly kind of open ourselves to experiencing more positive things, because it can feel weird, feeling good things, especially when you feel good things and sometimes they get taken away from you. And it's just part of life.
Do you think when you lose good things, you feel like it have a little bit of a depression feel to it, to where you're like, why would I bother doing that again? Because
exactly.
I lost it.
Yeah. So I'm going to protect myself from ever feeling those negative feelings again by never opening myself back up to love.
Oh, yeah.
You could do that as you two were divorced, I think you were saying, and then I'm divorced as well. And so like, am I ever going to make that level of commitment again at knowing how heart-wrenching it can be, even if it was the right thing to do,
Right. That makes a lot of sense. I just was kind of simmering on what you were saying and thinking about how for so many people walking out of the COVID era, how there's so many wounds that our workers are walking around with, and they're coming back to the workplace, or whether they're staying virtual, they're still coming back to engage in the workplace with all of these hurts and hangups. And so I could imagine that you might be pretty busy during this time as companies are trying to figure out how they break through with their workers to help them, feel happier and more productive.
Yeah. I mean, maybe one of the really lovely things that came out of COVID was a kind of an opportunity to pause and just to say, well, like my whole world is interrupted. And when this thing ends, how do I want to recreate this life going forward? And I have a really good relationship with my work. My work is very purpose-filled, and helping other people and service focused. That's all great. And I still need time for me. I still need time to do the things that I want to do and overeat fish tacos.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, thank you for validating that terrible choice for me. 6 isn't too many, is it?
I've done that.
6 is just an appetizer.
I mean, I'm supporting the local economy. That's what
I think
doing.
So. As you should. So, are you finding that you are being asked to come in and help different companies navigate through that post-COVID, I don't even know if I want to call it sadness, but just that heaviness and that hurt that so many people are coming back to work with?
I don't know if it's, I mean, that's always there. And I don't know that it's that as much as like, if we're coming back to work, like how do we should find joy in our work, right? And it's not all the time. I'm not saying that like it's just working and just Buddy the Elf at Santa's shop. We'll keep using that for the holidays, right? It's not meant to be that way, but work should provide us this. It's an incredible opportunity for us to have so many of the facets of human happiness triggered at work in a positive way, right? And so I think that people are coming back with that sort of like, I want something like more out of this, like I want something more out of this, and there's something there about this whole focus on the 40 piece of being like, and it's all right there, it's still there, and it's not as complicated as you think, like, and we have to be willing to lean into like, sometimes it's not going to feel good to try to work through the challenges of your arch nemesis at work. But that's really powerful and painful to the human brain, and you carry that with you, and any of the stuff that, even when I'm working with groups, I'm like, hey, whatever it is that we talk about that's like the rock in your shoe, the thing that's really bothering you, if you can work on that and it's not related to work, I don't care. I'm going to support you in that because you carry that with you at work. And if you're having good days at work, you carry that home with you. If you're having bad days at work, you carry that home with you.
Oh, I heard that quite a bit. You bring your work home with you, and then you're fighting with your spouse about something, and you're blowing up at her about something. She's like, "What are you mad about? Why are you so angry?" And then, like, turns out you had a bad day at work for whatever reason. You kind of carry it too. I think even children carry that too if they have a bad day at school.
100%.
Get a bad grade, or the teacher tells them they didn't do things right or whatever, and they come home and they have an attitude, and you're like, "What's your problem?" I have no problem with attitude. Nothing. I'm fine.
He's looking
Kris.
at me while we're having this conversation because this may or may not have been him this morning over coffee, just for the record. But we would love for your help. Go ahead.
I was just about to make a qualifying statement and say Anthony Poponi, founder of Focus on the 40, is not a marriage and family therapist counselor and cannot provide Kris or Christine consultation on their relationship or their relationship with their children.
Yeah. Well, but a bartender can, okay?
I mean, think about so many of these things. Like, my wealth manager says that 90% of her job is therapy. Realtors, 90% of their job, therapy.
Absolutely.
Bartenders, 90% of their job, therapy,
Podcasters, 90% of the job to seek free therapy.
I'm sending you an invoice at the end of this if we go deeper.
That's so funny. No, it's very, very on point what Kris is mentioning, because we were just discussing this morning about how when you're in an occupational environment where you're not feeling that high level of satisfaction or recognition for your work, how it definitely can impact your desire to give your best effort. And so we were just talking about like, what does it take to push through and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see like from a more corporate perspective, because I do work in education, how so many of our teachers and so many of our administrators are facing some of these same challenges with feeling like a lack of, I don't even know what the word is, but like, am I even making a difference? Is what I'm doing even being seen? Is it making an impact? Am I dispensable? And I guess we're all wrestling with, how do you move people out of that space other than saying like, oh, I appreciate you so much, because you can only give so many attaboys. You can only give so many, snack breaks that you sponsor and, little
pizza lunches.
Right. Pizza lunches and giveaways, because it's more than food fairs and free gifts for people. It's like helping them to really understand that they are important without having to give all of these attaboys. But I really think that the root of that comes down to happiness. Like, is it an individual thing or is it the responsibility of the organization?
Yes. And it's a super complicated question. I think stress and burnout are legit things, and what you were describing before is cynicism. Am I really making a difference? Am I even doing a good job? Do I even care about the people around you? Those are pretty good indicators of people being burned out. And I appreciate that you're in education. I was a former, teacher myself, and I do a lot of work here in my own community with the Boys and Girls Club. And it's super hard, right? So now, like, not only was teaching hard before, then we went through this crazy spell of virtual schooling and distance learning and all that. And kids were staying at home in places where they're, had really chaotic home environments. Not all the Boys and Girls Club kids, but a lot of them, they carry that with them. So 100% they do. So I think it got harder, and now we're, trying to like settle, the dust, letting the dust settle back into like the natural rhythm and patterns of schools, which were hard before. I mean, they were incredibly hard. So I think it's an individual piece, and it's also, an organizational piece. And the individual piece means, and the way that I frame this, and I'll provide you a link for show notes about like looking at your life and like, and our life, if we break it into domains, called about 8 different domains. I like to think of those as batteries. If you think about a device with 8 batteries in it, if you have 4 batteries that are really high and 4 batteries that are completely depleted, the device will still work for a time. If you can figure out where those elements of your life are really high, you should make sure that you keep them there. If your health and fitness is really good, awesome. If you have really good friends and family, awesome. If you have a loving relationship, make sure you continue to invest time in keeping those things really high and honor those things, because they can carry the low batteries.
Right.
Work on the low batteries, and that's hard. Sometimes low batteries are really challenging things that will take a big shift. Like if you're like, you know what it is? I hate my workplace, or I hate my job, and this is the wrong thing. And I did this career for a while, and it's the wrong thing. Oh, it's kind of hard to change. Now you have a degree and certifications and specialties and all that stuff, and it's time for you to just kind of redo it. And I'm going to tell you, if that's what you got to do, then you got to do it. You don't have to do it overnight. You don't have to quit and walk away from your job, because that's going to provide financial instability. But you got to start to figure out how to make those shifts to do something else that you're supposed to be doing. Now, the whole workplace thing is, yes, pizza parties are great, all those sort of things, and the attaboys and awards and all that. it's a cultural piece. And culture is like all these tiny little things that you can be doing that are, I think, more important than a pizza party. Pizza parties are important. Team buildings are really important. But the leaders have to say, like, we have to lean in extra hard on this stuff, especially in certain times of the year when it's super chaotic for teachers and students, beginning the school year, end of the school year, every school break, every single Friday. That you have to really put a different type of approach in there. And it's real subtle sometimes what those things are.
Hey, Anthony, have you heard of the theory, or they're talking maybe putting this in practice, of shifting it to a 4-day work week? Hear something about that?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that for maybe mental stability and maybe happiness in the workplace?
Yeah, I mean, and it really just depends on what you're going to choose to do with that extra day off, right? If what you're going to do is, let's use the teaching scenario, right? We're moving to a 4-day work week on teaching, which if you're a parent out there right now, you're panicking, right? You're like, wait, I need you to be there because I have a 5-day-a-week job. And what am I going to do with my kid on that 5th day? That's not what we're here to talk about right now. But if we were to do that, then like, what are you doing on that off day? Are you doing things to charge your batteries? And when I say charge your batteries, that's unique to you. Like, some people want to sit around and pet their cat and read books all day. That's not me recharging my batteries. That I know what things make me
Whiskers
feel good.
misses you, man.
I'm allergic to cats, so it's easy for me to dig on cats.
Misses you so much.
But I think we have to use those days wisely, and I think if we, it's this sort of like challenging yourself to say, all right, the thing I know how to do that feels productive, because it does feel good to be productive, is to work really hard, right? And to have like this sort of martyrdom about work. And so if you're a teacher and you go from working 5 days a week to only working 4 days a week in the classroom, and you're using your 5th day to grade papers and to do all that stuff, maybe that feels good, maybe that's valuable, or maybe you just need to figure out other things in your life that are going to add that, fulfillment to you.
But I think a lot of people, like, especially in my line of work, because my company, we have a 4-day work schedule, and all the other companies have a 5, and we have employees that come in and they're kind of like, oh, wait, I'm losing pay now because I'm only working 4 days. They see it like I need to work 5 or 6 because it's all about a money thing for a lot of people. I got to make more, make more. In fact, I threw the scenario out to a new hire a while back. I said, if you had a choice of having, what was it? It was the ultimate schedule, like the best days off, whatever, versus more pay. What would you rather take? They take more pay. Even if they had to work holidays, weekends, nights, whatever, they would have to do that to get the more pay. It could just be a Southern California thing because it's so expensive to live here, that you have to work 6 days a week to make ends meet. But saying in a perfect world, everybody would like to have maybe work 3 days or even 4 days. I mean, that'd be like ideal, I would think.
I mean, it can be ideal. Again, I think it's hard to give like a blanket answer on what really works, because it's really different for all industries, right? Like the hospitals can't go to a 4-day work week and be like, we're just not going to do emergencies on Friday.
Right.
You got your own, buddy.
Yeah. Good luck. Here's some we'll just leave a box of Band-Aids out front and some pain pills.
It's a first aid kit.
Good luck. Yeah, I think it really depends. I mean, and this isn't an area of my expertise, so I'll just say one thing and just say, I don't know. I think it's worth exploring for workplaces, but I think they've seen that productivity can go up. And so, that can be really valuable. And then if productivity can be linked with allowing people to have, a better well-being and more work-life balance and more time for the other things that matter in their lives other than work, great. I think we have this kind of, it's in our roots in the United States to attach dignity to productivity and to attach philanthropy to productivity, even like, well, we only give money because we are making money, and this is kind of a tithing back of like almost like a guilty tax, of paying to nonprofits. And so I think if we can have dignity about our work, and then have dignity, like, and this is for us and this is for our leaders, is to have dignity about our own lives away from work, that we can find dignity in being an awesome parent or an awesome coach or an awesome board member or just an awesome human being that only is going to get about 100 years on this planet if we're lucky. And what are we going to do with that? And to lean into the other parts.
So something that you just said made me think about like the difference between what you do being like talking about happiness versus just general performance management. So one of the researchers or authors that I'm familiar with is Daniel Pink, and his work around like what really motivates people in the workplace. Would you say that your work is more focused on getting people to be more effective in their job or finding fulfillment in life? Because I think that's where our listeners might find the most connection is like, where is it that your focus is?
Well, I'm not trying to not answer your question, but I think it's both.
Okay.
I mean, I think at a global level, what I'm talking to people about is like living a fulfilling life, and then if you start breaking that out into different chunks, work is a giant chunk of that for a lot of people. And what's really interesting is what we watched, what can happen with a lot of people when their definition of self and their definition of their dignity and their definition of value and contribution to the world is attached to work. And then they retire.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, well, now what the heck do I do with myself? And so
it's
now
like the good work is themselves. Like
it's their identity.
Yeah, right. So, and I'm not saying I don't think about retiring. I think about taking away some of the pain points related to my career and making it a little easier to continue to do these things over time in a way that's satisfying and less of the negativity, necessarily, planes stuff. But I think it's everything. Now, when I go into a workplace, I'm not just going in and saying, I'm here to talk to you about happiness, Like, that's not what it's about. It's that framing that I said, hey, listen, like, I want you to understand what it looks like to be a happy human being. And yes, if something that you need to work on is at your home life, we talked about it, you're going to carry that with you into work. And so if you can use tools to be happier at home, then your work still benefits, right? Your workplace still benefits and everybody around you benefits. If I'm going into a workplace, though, I'm primarily like, it's usually an introduction to happiness. And then I'm like, and there's hard parts. And we talked about it, like leadership. Like, how do you become a better leader? What does that look like? How do you identify what you're good at as a leader? What are your blind spots as a leader? What are some of the patterns that you've built up that are patterns of self-sabotage that, can look like good patterns that can make you productive, but keeps you from being happy at work, And then what's it look like to build trust in a workplace? Because if you can build up trust in a workplace, people don't hold back as much. And we love, like, it feels so good when you're in a trusted situation, right? Trusted relationship where you can be vulnerable. And we have like given work in some cases like this exemption of being like, no, that's not how you're supposed to feel about work. What if you could, what if you could be really honest with people about something you're really struggling with, whatever it is? I think there's real power in that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you were talking about patterns of self-sabotage, and I was just self-reflecting on that. Because I think at some point we have to reflect on what is our responsibility versus what's the organization's responsibility. So I do work in a leadership role, and I was just thinking about that. Like, when I'm dissatisfied, is it from circumstances that are of my own creation and I pretend that I'm the victim of? Or is it really something organizationally that needs to be addressed? Because if it's something that I'm kind of exacerbating in my own head, and it's like, okay, girlfriend, like, handle business and don't make it somebody else's problem. And, there's this saying in therapy or in like personal development spaces, it's like, take care of your own side of the street first. And it's like, like, if I'm not tending to my own happiness and my own effectiveness, how can I expect anybody else to do that? I can't put my happiness and satisfaction on anybody else to fix if I'm not doing everything myself to be the absolute best version of myself. And so, what you've said is really sat with me a lot today. And I'm thinking like, goodness, I can apply that to my own personal life and my professional life. So appreciate that.
You're welcome. I think if Kris has access to the applause soundtrack, you deserve it for that one.
Here we go. So, go ahead, Ann.
Just to piggyback on that, I mean, I think that's really valuable, right? Like having that conversation here in a space where other people are going to be listening to it is great, right? That's some really good self-awareness. And then, I think the really hard part is to like honor those blind spots we have that we can't see, that we need other people to help us point those things out. And let's call it other resources to help us point those out. Those can be an assessment that tells you your personality style, an assessment that tells you your leadership style, assessment that tells you your self-sabotage patterns.
Right.
So that you can put language around those, and even other people can put language around those things. And you can start understanding those things. And then the hard part that you've kind of talked about is, if you're doing your own work and other people aren't doing their work, you got to figure out what to do about that, right? Because that can really detract from a team of like, it could be 100 people. And if only 3% of those 100 people, that's 3% or 3 people, they can derail the productivity and the performance of a whole group of people.
Absolutely.
It's not toxic. Do you think kind of like the negative attitude is contagious within the workforce?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's like that whole concept of one bad apple ruins the whole bunch, right? You have something that festers, it rots what's around it.
Yep. Very good. I 100%. And I would say that the other way it goes the other way too, right? Like a positive mindset can be infectious as well. I think our default is negativity. And so our default is to look for problems and patterns and to externalize blame in a way, because I think externalizing blame is the way to protect you from feeling like you're the cause of these bad things.
Yeah, it's not my fault. It's never my fault. It's Joe's fault. Joe over there. See, Joe, he's not doing nothing. Come on.
Christine and I talked before the show. We've got some things to talk about with you, Kris, later. We'll do it off air.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, so talking about this, like working on yourself, do you have resources that you provide to individuals? And if so, how can they access that?
Yeah, I'm happy to provide those resources. One of the things that I really love is a workbook I put together. It's called Head to Toe Happiness. And it really focuses on a lot of things. It has information in there on like leadership styles and all that. But it's, the reason it's called Head to Toe is we talk about your head. We talk about like literally what's going on up in your brain and like the power of neuroplasticity that you can reshape your life. Reshape your thought patterns, reshape how you feel. That triggers different emotions and all that. That's available to us. That's part of the 40%, and then it, moves down to heart and compassion and kindness. There's real power in kindness and gratitude for your existing life. And then if you go all the way down to your toes, it's like where you plant your feet. Where's your community? And your community can be at work, it can be in your household, it can be in, the space you live, and how to look for, how to craft more happiness in those places. So I'm happy to provide a link to that. It's called Head to Toe Happiness. You can find it on my website under the tab that's called Resources.
And what is that website for our listeners?
Well, I'm a narcissist, so it's anthonypoponi.com.
That makes it super easy for you to remember, especially.
Or Focus on the 40 will get you there as well.
That sounds like it could be a really valuable resource to our listeners, especially as we're looking at heading towards the holidays. We get towards this season of people making New Year's resolutions. And, when we were researching last year for the New Year's episode, we like to focus a little bit on like, what are those resolutions that people make? And they tend to be about health, happiness, finding fulfillment, taking time for self, and job related in some way, like goals. And so it sounds like the work that you're doing is really at the root of so much of that work. If we can just get really honest with ourselves and figure out where we're at and where we want to grow in terms of our own satisfaction with our life, that it could really check the boxes on so many of those different domains.
Oh, absolutely. It's this whole thing about examining your life. And I don't want people to think that they have to look at their lives and be like, oh, I'm just a terrible person. That's not what this is about.
Right.
This is about saying like, I have a good life. I would like to have a slightly better life than what I have now. And what can I do about that? And to be honest about the patterns that get you there and the patterns that don't. And when you're making these shifts in who you are and how you behave, and even like going back and fixing historic issues and mistakes you've made and all that stuff, it's not going to feel good necessarily. And that's okay. Like you should lean into the fact that like, it's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to be stressful and I'm not going to like how it's going to feel doing it. But in retrospect, you're going to love that you did those things because that's where growth is.
That's such words of wisdom, Anthony. Do you have any last words for our listeners as we're, again, heading into this holiday season where people are doing a lot of self-reflection?
Yeah, sure. I mean, one of the things I would say is just a very simple tool. And I think that that's kind of the foundation for a lot of the work I do, is that it's not like, it doesn't all have to be hard stuff. Like mental fitness activities are very quick and easy. They're mindfulness based, right? They don't have to, if you want to be super happy in life, you can meditate for 2 hours a day. Most people don't have that kind of time available, but you could do it in a lot shorter period of time. One of the things that I do every day that I think is a great tool over the holidays, and it's a really good reframe about like this season of like what we would call the holiday, the season of more. How can we give more gifts and get more stuff and do more things and go? That gratitude is really valuable to us. And so every day with my phone, I'm picking up my phone right now, and I have a little timer that goes off, a little reminder that goes off at 12:34 every day. So it's 12:34 p.m. And at that time, and it doesn't happen every day, and you don't have to do it every day for this to be effective, but I say 5 things I'm grateful for. I'm grateful to get interviewed on a podcast. It's fun to share my wisdom with the world because I can impact people. This was really fun. I got to laugh on the show. I'm getting to go to San Diego next week. I had a really fun time with friends, and I like fish tacos, and I'm going to eat some.
I can't argue with that.
And so there's 5 things that I just rewired my brain to be grateful for what I have versus only willing to be happy when I get the next thing, right? And our brains are wired that way. So you can short circuit that kind of old historic wiring by just being grateful right now for little things that you already have.
I really love that. That gratitude practice is something that I think I'm going to work on incorporating into my routine, especially in this season of more. I've never thought about it like that. And so, we just want to thank you, Anthony, for being on our show today and sharing some of your happiness and wisdom and dad jokes with us. And Kris, any last words from you?
No, I was going to say thanks, Anthony. Thanks for stopping by today, and we'll see you in a few days.
Yeah, it was a great conversation, and thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us.
If you love music and podcasting, now you can have both. Introducing the brand new K2 radio station, available 24/7 on the Live 365 app for free.
Specializing in rock and alternative music, we're talking bands like Coldplay, Nirvana, Muse, Imagine Dragons, and yes, even the Rolling Stones. They have all stopped by to drop off songs, and we even have brand new popular tracks added every single day.
Also on the free K2 radio station, we are including podcasting. Get the best of both worlds. Download the free Live 365 app or listen online at live365.com and type in K2 Radio.
It was so fantastic having Anthony on the show today. We haven't had a guest on in a while.
Yeah, and I really liked what he was talking about as it related to happiness and just... I really have been reflecting on his words, and I feel like they're super powerful.
Oh, definitely, for sure.
Yeah. And so have you taken away like any words of wisdom, anything that's going to help you not be Scrooge McDuck all the time?
Hey, you know what? Of course, and I'm definitely working on being happy. Like I said, podcasting here makes me happy. Having hobbies, I think if you have a hobby really outside of work, I know a lot of people at work, they get really sucked into just doing work stuff and work. And even the real... sometimes people will come into work on their day off just to hang out because that's all they know. That's all they have. That's their circle. It's kind of sad if you think about it like that.
That used to be me.
Oh, was it? I knew a lot of people. I knew people do that. They because that's all they have. Yeah. So they'll come in. I remember I was working. I worked a lot of jobs, by the way. One of the jobs I had, I was working at the 99-cent store, the dollar store.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be stocking the shelves. And then we worked. It was open 7 days a week, so we're open every day there, and I was working, doing my stocking, and I saw another employee who was working there. He was there on his day off and hanging out and talking and hanging out. I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, it's your day off. Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just come here and hang out sometimes, and this and that. I'm like, what? Don't you work here? I just at my time, it blew my mind. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get it. I just didn't understand. Like, if you're shopping, it's one thing, but just to hang out and talk to people, that's kind of weird. But maybe that's because that's all their little circle is work, which it's kind of sad.
Which isn't like work-life balance very much. And so I think that's really important that you have things in your life that you can look forward to, whether it be fish tacos or travel or podcasting or wedding planning and florals, all of those things make up for a really good life. And so, Anthony had some really great points. And speaking of which, we need to send him over the names of some of those fabulous fish taco places.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. We'll have to send him an email all about that stuff.
Yeah. So, Kris, where can listeners find out more about us if they listen to this episode and they were hooked and they're like, I want more of Kris and Christine?
More of the Kris and Christine, you can go to our Master Hub website, which is chrisandchristineshow.com. And guess what? Doesn't matter how you spell it because I figured all that out.
And if you liked what you listened to, you can definitely leave us a review on Apple. Definitely hit that subscribe button and share on social media and with all of your friends and family. And we will be back with you next week.